Over the last several weeks, the landscape of higher education has been increasingly unstable. DOJ's access to sensitive student data has shaken student trust in the financial aid process, and federal funding is being threatened or withdrawn from colleges and universities over contentious issues ranging from student protests to athletic policies. All the while, President Trump and Secretary of Education McMahon have done everything in their power to seemingly dismantle the Department of Education, leaving a range of programs and policies in uncharted waters. In a moment where headlines are shaping futures, how are colleges responding? What does all this mean for students, especially those who are first generation or come from low income households, trying to make critical decisions about their futures this spring? In this episode of College Matters, I'm joined by Chicago Scholars Chief Strategy Officer, Dr. Tamara Hoff-Pope, Vice Provost for Enrollment and Student Success at George Washington University, Jay Goff, and Associate Dean and Director of Access at Bates College, Tyra Crosby. Welcome to College Matters. First, I'll ask the guests to go around and do a quick intro of the work that they do and some of the things they've been working on. So we'll kick it off with Tyra. Why don't you start for us?
Sure, Jeff. Super excited to be here and join you all. And so, as you mentioned, I am our Associate Dean and Director of Access here at Bates. I have been at Bates for just under a year, but I've previously worked at two other highly selective liberal arts institutions. So I've been getting to know the Bates community, and it's been quite a year to get to know the Bates community and do access work at a highly selective liberal arts school. And so right now I'm in the thick of it in terms of yielding the class of 2029 and what that means, as well as prepping for the next class. I think as Associate Dean and Director of Access, I sit right in between two two sides. I think I'm much closer to the work and to the students and to having those conversations and being boots on the ground, but then also needing to turn an eye to enrollment goals and numbers and things like that, which every good admissions person should be doing. But I think it's very much middle ground for me right now in terms of what I'm seeing and what I'm working on.
Thank you. Jay.
Well, hi, Jeff. Thank you for the invitation to join you all today. Again, my name is Jay Goff, and as the Vice Provost for Enrollment and Student Success at GW, my role is kind of broad. Well, the way we think about student success is we are really thinking about the student life cycle. In other words, what do we see in terms of how do we support students from a pre-college standpoint in terms of improving their college readiness and their career readiness skills, all the way through making their campus visits, the college selection and admissions process, financial aid, registration, potential graduate school and post-baccalaureate, and then career services. So we overlook what we call a K-20 approach, everything from kindergarten to the point where you go through graduate, professional school, and starting and launching your career. My work, so I've served as a university vice president for enrollment and student support for over 25 years and have been a faculty member and teacher for 30 years. And so I've had the opportunity to work at a number of different types of institutions from throughout the country. But right now, with my being in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University, or what we call GW, I have a unique opportunity to get to meet students from all 50 states. We have students from about 142 different countries, and so it gives us a chance to think about how do we support students in a wide variety of ways, and hopefully we'll get to talk about some of that today.
Thank you for joining. Dr. Pope.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have an automatic light in here, so in case it goes out, that's why. But yes, so I am Dr. Tamara Hoff-Pope, and I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Chicago Scholars. And we are an education nonprofit that supports first-generation students and students from low-income families to and through college. And part of my role is to lead that strategic vision and direction to make sure that our scholars are able to achieve economic mobility, a sense of belonging, and leadership development. And specifically, I do that through programming and data, making sure that the data can tell the story of the impact of our program and sharing our scholar stories to make sure, that they're able to actualize their fullest potential.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. Let's hop right in. So this was for Jay and Tyra. What have the last 3 months been like on your campus? How are your staff, faculty, or students processing current events? And Jay, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, it's one of the things that happens whenever you have an administration change each time is that you're going to have new leaders in each of the federal agencies. That there's going to be some policy changes that will align with whatever the new president's agenda has been laid out. And usually the first 100 days of the presidency of that transition can be aggressive, but usually you see most of those changes happening in the first year and a half. What we've been experiencing, and I'm sure many of you have seen this in the news and in different media reports, is that this administration has made the leadership changes and obviously is making agenda and policy changes, but are doing it in a much more fast-paced and almost daily agenda-setting manner in terms of that we're seeing multiple executive orders coming down in each week, and that's a pace that I haven't experienced before, and it was pretty unique. And what we've experienced is that as you hear how some of these changes and agenda items are impacting higher education, the colleges and the universities, you're hearing different stories about not only there being a downsizing in the Department of Education, changing, and when I say downsizing, the number of people working in the Department of Education, we used to be about 4,100, and I think right now they've announced that they're going to reduce it down to about 2,000 students, or about 2,200, so about a little bit, almost about half the size of what it was on January 20th. And then the other thing that you'll be hearing about is changes in the withholding of research grants that would go to universities like George Washington University that largely support graduate programs and medical research, engineering research, different types of research efforts. So the way we've been responding to that is really twofold. One is to try and keep our campus community aware of what changes are actually happening. And so we've created a website in which we document each one of these each day, so people can monitor that and see what's happening. And then also trying to highlight if that change is going to likely impact any students or faculty on our campus. The second thing that I think is important to kind of get across is that many of the students right now that are involved, they're seniors in high school and are going through the college selection process, many of them are wondering, well, do any of these changes, are they going to impact me? Are they going to impact my ability to go to the school of my choice? Is it going to impact the financial aid that I was counting on in terms of Pell Grants or SEOG grants, federal work study, or student loans? And through all the changes that have been suggested, that have actually happened, or that are tentatively being planned on, the good news is that there's been no suggestion that any of the federal aid programs would be reduced or changed in this coming year. So in other words, if you should be able to use the FAFSA system to apply for financial aid. And right now, we are not expecting any changes to the eligibility criteria or the amount of the awards for Pell Grants, for SEOG grants, for federal work study, or for student loans. So you should be able to get the same amount of aid in the same fashion that students have in previous years. And so so if you're a prospective student or you're a parent of a prospective student, the most important thing to do is to follow the process, is to get to complete the new FAFSA. There are some changes in that, and the biggest change right now is that both custodial and non-custodial parents need to submit their information on the FAFSA. And that's been the main kind of hiccup that we've seen on the student side. It's just the families adjusting to the new FAFSA process. But if you'll do that, you should be able to get the same amount of aid as students did in the previous years.
Okay, all right, Jay, you answered and knocked out some of the questions down the road I was going to ask, but we'll circle back. We got some more details I want to get into and dig in there as well. Tyra, what have the last 3 months been like for you on campus? And how are the student staff processing current events?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little interesting to say, but they've been relatively calm. I think that because we live in this work and we live in getting all this information, a lot of times the admissions office or people who work in enrollment tend to be very much forward thinking and anticipating a lot more happening than what is actually currently happening on campus. And so I think for what I've seen, our campus is feeling relatively calm, relatively normal. And then we have everyone behind the scenes, like us in admissions, our enrollment team, our VP for equity and inclusion, that's doing a lot of prepping. And of course, we have staff and faculty who are concerned for their students. That's the type of place we work in, right? Where they're going to want to know, okay, if this question comes up, if this student needs help, how do we help them? And so we've had meetings with all faculty, all staff, just so that we're all on the same page about, hey, this is what's happening. This is what it means, which doesn't mean a ton right now. There's just a lot of movement. And so then how are we going to handle it moving forward in order to best help and protect our students and the populations that we serve? And so again, relatively calm, not much has changed right now. There's just a lot happening for us at Bates in terms of prepping. We don't want to be reactionary should any changes actually unfold.
Sam, from the student perspective, working on the side of the scholars as a partner to the colleges, have you heard from our college counselors or families any concerns around things that have been happening? And if so, maybe you can share some of the things you've heard.
Yeah, I think one of the major concerns that students and families are having is with the FAFSA, honestly, even though there aren't any major changes necessarily happening as far as cutting funding. There are some mixed citizenship families who are concerned about their private information being leaked or being accessed in ways that they are not granting through filling out the FAFSA form. So I do think that's one barrier for scholars and for families that they're trying to address. Secondly, I think the other major issue or concern is making sure that they're selecting the right colleges. They want to attend a university that values their identity and that they can really feel a sense of belonging on those campuses. And so I know those conversations are happening among scholars and families, and they're really trying to weigh their decisions around, what is going to be the actual best match fit and financial fit institution for them to attend. So those are two of the biggest ones.
Thank you. Jay, you talked a little bit about GW standing up a website. I think that's actually outstanding. Maybe you can talk to us about how that process came about, and with the pace of information that's kind of currently and constantly changing, how do you all keep up with the rapid flow of information to update that site and update your community?
So the way we came about it was that we recognized that our faculty, our students, and staff were giving us feedback saying that they wanted to be aware and responding appropriately, but it was hard to find the detailed information. And they asked if our communications team could help gather that each day and then update it in a single format so that we could really be focusing on the facts and not the hyperbole. And there's a lot of hyperbole on the internet and on television, and because they need to fill time. And so they tend to stretch things out, and it was hard. With what the feedback we were getting was the media was making it hard to understand what the actual changes were, and what the expectations of the changes should be. And so what we decided to do was simply to use our communication and government relations staff collect the information, try to put it in a very concise format with links that if they want more information, they can learn about that, and then put regular updates on the website. And then if there are changes that maybe would impact students or would impact faculty or researchers, then we try to send that information directly to them so that they're aware of what those changes may be. And so it's some people have said, oh, well, that's just a good change management approach, to being proactive. I don't know if it's perfect, but it has worked well for us, the last 3-4 weeks in terms of trying to keep everyone, up to date. But I know it's a lot. And if for families and prospective students, sometimes that can be confusing. And so the other thing that we've tried to do is let people know that if they're outside the university where they do have questions, we encourage them to contact our student services hub or to contact the admissions office, and we'll have individuals who can kind of explain to you if you have specific questions. They'll walk you through and talk about what the potential impacts may be to you. And so I spend a considerable amount of my time each day, doing that, is talking with either people inside the university and people outside the university, and kind of explaining what the potential impacts may be.
Yeah, oftentimes we see with families, the most difficult part of the process is just finding the basic information you need to move forward. And in this time, having clarity and concise information pointed in the right direction from the institution you trust is really, I think, a really great way to handle it. Tyra, what about Bates? What is the institution doing to respond to current events? And, how are you messaging students, faculty, and or staff?
Mm-hmm. So what we've been doing is more in-person opportunities. So as things were coming out, our senior leadership, so our president, our VP for Equity and Inclusion, and a couple others who have been working on messaging and working with council and trying to parse through everything that's coming down and seeing what is actually going to affect our students. They've had meetings set up, so town halls, if you will, on campus for everyone to come in, get information, but then also have kind of a forum for them to ask questions and really feel like they're being supported. And so those are a series of things that are going to be happening this semester. It's already started just earlier this semester, and there are more planned for ways for us to continue to give the information out to our community. The other piece is that there are certain things, like I said before, Bates is trying very hard not to be reactionary, but to be prepped. And so what we've been trying to do is not necessarily alarm students about something if it's not going to be, very true or very valid or relative to their own experience. And so for some students, especially, they're international students, et cetera, there's a very real immediate concern. And so we've been trying to deal with those students on a one-on-one. And so here's what's happening, here's how we can allay your fears, and here's how we can help you move forward. And so they're getting kind of that personalized contact from our Center for Global Education and other areas so that they can feel supported in that way. But again, trying our best not to be reactionary and offering opportunities for everyone to get the information that they need in the way that they need it.
I think that's a really, valuable piece of advice, not to be reactionary, but take your time, find the pace, and seek out the information in the way you need it. And it sounds like both of you all as college partners and many of our others are actually offering it in multiple formats, whether it's website, town hall, student advisors, trusted sources, so that families and prospective students and current students can get the information they need, which is great. At Chicago Scholars, our students are either first generation or from low-income households. What advice do you have for them as they make their college decisions this spring? And maybe we'll kick this one off. Going back to you, Tyra, what would you tell those young people coming to Bates potentially this spring?
Yeah, Jeff, we actually just had our first admitted students day just this past Friday, as well as the fly-in program attached to it just this past. And so one, I'm still recovering, but two, it was great energy and some interesting conversations, right? Because for some families, this isn't necessarily something they need to consider in making their decision. But for others, this is a very real conversation, especially as a first generation student, especially given where we are. And I think that's a huge piece that maybe students had more optimism about, you know, in Chicago. Coming to Maine, that's a little bit farther of a distance. And so when they were first looking at schools, maybe they felt comfortable to be that far away from home. And now there might be students who are feeling like, you know what? I don't know that I can do that distance. I feel like I need to be a little bit closer. But honestly, I really think students just need to do their research and follow up. Every one of the, if they're good admissions offices, they all should be prepared to answer these questions and be expecting these questions from students and expecting students to reach out. So I think that they can definitely call at minimum all of your college partners, but everyone that they've applied to, everywhere that they've been accepted, and just to feel secure in making a decision by May 1 to deposit and say, yes, this place has my back. Yes, this place has, you know, information in Spanish if my family only speaks Spanish. So not only do I feel okay, but my mom or whoever feels okay sending me farther away or something like that. So I think what we're prepping on our end in Base's office is to be prepared for questions and to answer all the questions for students. And I think that's where we need to be at for students and their families is what are the questions? How do we get you to where you need to get to? And that's kind of what it boils down to.
Dr. Tam, what advice do you have for students making their decisions this spring?
So first and foremost, we always advise our scholars to consider universities that they do not have to take more than $10,000 in debt per year. So we are advising our students to make sure they are really reviewing those award letters to see where can they get the best education at an affordable cost. I mean, they are consumers, you know, they are considering how to use their money, how to spend their money, and which colleges make the most sense for them and their families. Again, we're also encouraging them to make sure they select an institution that they can feel that sense of belonging, that they can feel like they can thrive on that campus. And we're also encouraging our scholars to consider universities that partner with us. So this is the perfect example of being on a call with our university partners, because we want to make sure that our scholars are making it to campuses where we have connections and we have liaisons, and we know that we have people in place on those campuses that are going to support them in their academic ambition. So those are a few of the things that we're encouraging our scholars to do.
And Jeff, might I also add, I know I briefly mentioned that we had a fly-in program, and so I know you all do fantastic work with your scholars, but just to say it one more time, if there is a fly-in opportunity, especially right now in the spring as an admitted student, or if there are any prospective students listening on this call and they are looking forward, I would say this is also where some of the applications come out in the spring for fall fly-in programs as well. Go see campus. They're paying for you to get to campus. It's a fantastic opportunity. And that's where you get to see students who are like you in their element in this school. And that could be you either in the fall or that could be you the next year, depending on where you are. So please take advantage of those opportunities. Your resources are always there. And I promise you, there are some of your counterparts who have no problem taking up resources or raising their hand for things. And so that's my advice to students is raise your hand, take up space, take up resources. It's there for you.
Sound advice, Tyra. I mean, it was many, many moons ago for me, but it was a fly-in program at the University of Missouri at the last minute that prompted me to go there and choose that school over Marquette, you know, walking around the campus around this time of year in March, where it was snowy and 37 in Chicago and it was 70 and sunny in Missouri. They fooled me because typically their weather's about the same, but it was a bit warmer that day. Jay, what are you advising families and students that make their decisions this spring?
I think the advice that Tyra and Tamara have provided is, you know, dead on. The one thing that my research work is in student success theory, and what we see over and over again is that One of the most important things is that the student feel comfortable, that they feel like they fit in at the institution that they choose. And a lot of times there's confusion between, hearing about a name brand or someone else's experience or someone else, this felt right to somebody else. And if we can kind of get across is that one of the most important things is it needs to feel right to you. And it needs to be the place where they can have the degree area that they want to study in, where they have the activities that the student wants to participate in, and not just have the activities, but also make sure that there's going to be an opportunity for them to participate. Because a lot of times there'll be schools where they'll offer the activity, but only a handful of students ever get to actually participate in it. And so part of that fit is finding places where you're going to have a good chance to do the things that you want to do. And where do you feel comfortable? Where are the individuals that are providing you the information that you feel comfortable asking questions and kind of showing your vulnerabilities to? That's really, really important, and it's different for everyone. It's different for everyone. I'm a first generation student myself, and so as you probably have heard, all three of us have been implying is visit, visit, visit. It's amazing how many students will make a choice on the school they're going to and they don't visit. And we see the highest rate of attrition. In other words, students who start at one institution and leave because they didn't make a visit. They couldn't determine if the school was the right fit. So Jeff, your story about the University of Missouri is one that I think all of us have heard multiple times, is that you had an idea in your head what the right school was, but it wasn't until you visited that you really knew, okay, no, this is a place where I know I can thrive. I mean, this is the lawn I want to walk across. These are steps I want to climb. These are the doors I want to walk through. And there's going to be somebody there that's going to grab me by the shoulder and make sure, that I'm going to do well here. And the way you do that is going there and finding out what they do and how do they do it.
Yeah, and as longstanding trusted partners, both Bates and George Washington, we've got numerous stories of young people who've gone through your schools and had that experience where, they visited, they got there, and they found themselves. They found their people and their ability to learn and grow. Last question as we close for all three of you. It's kind of two-part. First, as we look at the current environment, do you expect recent events to have an impact on students' choices or majors? And we'll end on a positive. What are you most looking forward to in light of all that's going on for your campus community, or students? And anybody can start.
Okay, I'll start. So yes, I do think the current events and what's happening in the country right now is going to impact school choice, right? It's going to impact those university decisions, particularly that our scholars are making. They may choose to pursue a major that could be impacted on a particular campus by, an executive order that comes out. Their health issues or concerns could also potentially be impacted in certain states. And so we are strongly advising our scholars to consider all of those factors before selecting an institution. What state is the institution in? What's happening in the state? What laws might impact that university, and just the surrounding communities. And so our scholars are taking that into consideration as they're making their decisions. Again, affordability is a big issue. Where can they go where they can get the most bang for their buck? They can get the best education at an affordable price. So our students are considering all of those things, and what is happening currently is certainly impacting how they're making those decisions.
Thank you. And what brings you hope? That's what are you most hopeful for?
That is a great question. I think what brings me hope is knowing that our scholars are really going to change the world. I really do believe that. We just went through our application review season where we're getting ready to onboard. We're interviewing now. We're getting ready to onboard our new class of scholars. And the ambition that these young people have, the dreams that they have, the goals that they're setting for themselves to achieve, I know are really going to change the world in the not too distant future. I mean, they really have high hopes, high ambitions. And I'm just looking forward to seeing that, and just glad that Chicago Scholars can serve as just one piece, one step in their journey to help them actualize all of those goals that they're trying to achieve. So that's what's really bringing me hope right now.
I'll jump. Yeah, I'll jump on there. I would share the same concerns. I think as you see some of the changes, it's understanding what your goals are for your college experience is going to be really important. And that's something that we hope that as a family that you talk about and clarify and really kind of think that through, because that will help in terms of doing the kind of the filtering that Dr. Hope was just talking about. What I'm hopeful about is what we're seeing right now is we're seeing the percentage of high school graduates that are pursuing higher education is going up. We are seeing that the student success rates in terms of the graduation rates, post-pandemic are going up. And the wonderful thing is we're seeing student debt loads are actually going down. And that's the one thing that's not being talked about is that I think one of the things that many universities are recognizing is they are really looking at their mission and understanding that need-based financial aid is critical to, if you want to help students, whether they're from a deep urban or a deep rural background, whether they're a first generation student or they immigrated to the country, students are going to have different needs across the board. And more schools now are recognizing that they need to put programs in to meet students where they are when they arrive, and to make sure that there's a priority put on need-based aid. And so when you see the number of schools right now, and schools like my own that are fairly expensive, what we're doing right now is that we're spending almost $300 million of institutional aid each year, with the vast majority of that going to need-based aid. And that's making sure that if you have worked hard in high school, in your community, you're a demonstrated leader, and you are offered admission to GW, we're going to try and make sure that you can afford it, and that you're seeing that type of change happening throughout the country. And so don't let cost be a thing that's limiting you, in terms of doing that. And that's what I'm excited about, is I think you're seeing more places that are focusing on making sure that all students have a shot, regardless of what their family income may be.
Thank you, Jay. Tyra?
Yeah, I agree. I think that the current landscape definitely will impact the choices that students make on majors or career fields or things like that. I think we've been seeing that shift for a while. Even in my previous institution, I've been seeing that shift. Politics is one of the largest majors here at Bates, and I, of course, will continue to see that trend, and it's both amazing to see, and also at the same time, we have a huge amount of students in this class who are interested in classical and medieval studies, right? And so I think what's lovely is, while there is a lot of student reaction to things, it's in a good place. I want to make a difference. I want to make a change. So I want to have these things while also still doing the things that they're interested in and the things that they love. So I'm seeing this marrying of two sides of how do I be impactful, and also how do I do what brings me joy. And I'm loving that it's being met somewhere in the middle here at Bates, thankfully. And I would say what makes me hopeful is it's a little bit of a two-parter. I think that it's both a concern and something that gives me hope. I feel that in situations like this, a lot of times students will lean on staff and faculty who look like them or who have similar backgrounds. And I think that that is a lot to weather, right? Or to be that staff member or to be that faculty member that all of those students come to, especially depending on the makeup of your college and who's on your staff and faculty. So hopefully people are paying attention to that. But I would say it's concerning, as I don't want us to lose talented people in this work and in support of our students, but it's also hopeful because they are fantastic. They are so fantastic. They're doing a great job with our students. I've been seeing it firsthand, especially with this past accepted students day that we just had. And I get to see it in real time, which is just so fantastic. People don't do this work for the thank you, but when you can see it, the change, the impact you have in real time, it really is heartwarming to see. And I think that's what gives me hope.
Jay, Tyra, Dr. Sam, thank you for today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insight. You know, one of the things we know, and this is why we do this work collectively, is that the change in the world, the great change in the world, has largely been driven by college, the collegiate community, the university infrastructure, and our young people. And as we wrap up this episode of College Matters, one thing's clear: the choices students make this spring are more complex, more critical than ever before. And amid the shifting policies, uncertain funding, and national debates, it's essential that we all continue to uplift and support first generation and low-income students with transparency, with guidance, and unwavering advocacy. The path to college may be evolving, but the promise of education must remain. And we're committed, all of us on this call, those and many of you watching who are partners in this work, are committed to walking alongside our students and scholars and partners every step of the way. Until next time, stay informed, stay hopeful, and remember, college matters. Thank you. I'm Jeff Beckham, CEO of Chicago Scholars, and we'll see you soon.